He might be a murderer, he might not be. Yeah, I think he would be handy to have around.
Welcome to Drawesome Devs, a video series where I interview indie game developers with a twist. Each question I ask them, they'll answer with a drawing, which I then try to interpret. We'll see how I do with my interpretations, but let me know how you do in the comments below. Today I had the privilege of interviewing Gregor from Homo Naren Studio. He's a solo game developer working on Casebook 1899 The Lies Pig Murders, which is releasing later this year, 2025. Casebook 1899 is the perfect game for fans of classic point-and-click adventures, as well as fans of detective games, featuring a deduction system where the player takes a more active role in solving cases. If you haven't yet, go ahead and grab the demo on Steam and give it a try while we get into the interview.
I'm Gregor, and I'm a solo developer developing Casebook 1899 The Leipzig Murders. I guess I'm making the game I always wanted to play, and that's why it feels like it's a game from the 90s. The combination, the puzzles with the interesting story, the interesting characters. I was always a fan of Sherlock Holmes and other mystery novels. And I felt like there are really good detective point-and-click adventures out there. And not only point-and-click, but I always thought like, there's not the perfect one. So let's create the perfect point-and-click detective story. I think The Fate of Atlantis is probably one of the games that inspired me the most in regards to art style. The resolution is the classic Fate of Atlantis. Also, a lot of the color palettes are straight from these kind of games. I'm a big Indiana Jones fan, and it's not a detective story, but in my understanding, any kind of adventure game is kind of a detective story. You're always a detective somehow. I'm not a big fan of these games where it's like, okay, first puzzle, second puzzle, third puzzle, fourth puzzle, and if you're stuck anywhere, you can't do anything. So in Casebook 1899, you like have 4 different cases you have to solve, but they present you at a place where the murder or whatever happened. They present you with the facts, and then they open up, and you can very quickly go anywhere you want and tackle all the problems and all the puzzles that you have to solve in very much a free way, whichever comes easiest to you. That's a design philosophy that I wanted, this kind of freedom. It can be overwhelming for some, I guess, but I like this open-endedness. The first chapter, it only has like 3 real locations. The other cases have many more. Usually it's like 5 or 6 different locations, which also have sub-locations. So yeah, it's much freer than the third case.
What is your favorite thing about the main character in your game, Joseph Kreiser?
Problem is I'm thinking about 2 things, like what's the answer to this, and what's an answer that I can draw.
You are free to start drawing now.
Done.
Okay. I'm going to guess for number 1 that you like his hat. I see the little hat. That's what it looks like to me. The second one. Well, it definitely looks like a person walking upstairs. So maybe my guess would be that would be metaphorical and maybe how he grows as a character. That's that's my guess. Let's see how close I am. Okay, I was very far off. His social standing is not hindering him, and he has a very positive disposition. That's so wholesome. So, can you explain to me a little better how each of these images represents this, and also a little bit more about him as a character and why you admire these things about him?
I actually I wrote it in the wrong order. So one is his sunny, positive disposition, and his social stance. It's something that was very important to me during the development, to be honest about the historic facts. I mean, this is a work of fiction, of course. All of the cases are completely made up, but the language is very much period accurate. It is becoming kind of a problem for me because the German word we now use for office, it wasn't used in that time period. So I have to use a very antiquated word, but I wanted to stay really true to the historic facts. And not only in regards to the language that's spoken, but also to the social norms of the time. And the reality of the thing is that detectives did not have a high social stance. So a lot of people look down on him, and this goes very deep into the game, even into puzzle design. Like there's a scene where he always walks around with this state prosecutor character, and there's a scene when they go to a villa, and there's a butler opening the door, and he's like, "What are you doing here? That's a scandal if someone sees you walking in the front door. You have to use the servants' entrance." And of course, then there's a puzzle coming out from that. But that is not something that gets the character down or disheartens him in any way. And while I wrote the character, I started to admire this kind of positivity that he had.
That's super wholesome. It sounds like from the historical accuracies that you're trying to put into the game, that in a way kind of created puzzles almost for you. Would you say that's accurate?
Absolutely, totally. I hardly ever went into a scene and saying, damn, what could be the puzzle? There's a lot of interconnectivity when you do these things. I think that's one of the probably one of the few things that's positive about being a solo developer, because you have to do everything, and that means inspiration can come from anything. Like one example is I had one character where I animated him, and I animated him in a way that made me laugh, like his speech patterns and the movements they do. He's a bit like Stan, from Monkey Island. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's moving his arms a lot, but he's also a communist. And so, you have the raised fist. And then I know immediately how to write it and how to have it voiced. I didn't have to put any thought into that. And it's the same with the puzzles. In a lot of scenes, I'm drawing the scene, I'm blocking out the scene, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to put that here because that's a historic detail. And then it's like, oh, that could lead to a great puzzle. So yeah, a lot of the puzzles were almost dictated by historic accuracies.
Have you found there to be any challenges with the historic accuracies? I mean, you said with the language that that's one of them, but have there been any other things that have come up? And if so, have you decided to move past them for the sake of gameplay or just find a way to incorporate them into the gameplay instead?
The biggest thing is fingerprinting. That was put into use in Germany, at least in 1903. So that was for me out of the question, and that is something I kind of missed that. I would have loved it to have, little find the fingerprints mini game or something like that. But I didn't even put any thought into it how that could be in the game, because the facts were absolutely against it. So yeah, I left that out.
If you had to live with one of the characters in your game, who would you choose and why? You are free to start drawing now. All right.
That's it.
Your time is up. Okay. It's definitely somebody wearing overalls and smoking. You know what? I think I might have a guess actually. I can't remember his name, but the mechanic in the first chapter, is that who is that who this is?
That is absolutely correct. Yeah, I mean, he might be a murderer, he might not be. Yeah, I think he would be handy to have around. I mean, from all the characters, I think they all have their problems, and they all might be murderers. So why not be around someone who's able to fix your sink? It's a dangerous time, you know. There's
Anyone could
always
be
a
a murderer.
reason.
Is there any, other than the practicality of him being able to repair things, are there any personality reasons that you would prefer to live with him over somebody else?
I think it's something a personality trait I really appreciate is with him it's like you get what you see, you know. He's not bullshitting you, he's just telling you how he sees things, and that is something I actually do appreciate. Yeah, I mean, he could be a bit more fun to be around, but you know, let's cut him some slack. Some boss has been murdered, and as we said, maybe by him. So he might not want to choke around right now.
What was his name? Can you remind me what his name is?
Oh my God.
We'll both
You
forget.
see, it's been so long since I wrote this part of the game. It's actually been 5 years now.
Oh,
Wow,
wow.
that is a long time. This started as a Corona project, you know, as a COVID project. I was stuck at home and I thought, you know, nowadays the technology is so far advanced that even someone like me, I studied archaeology, I work as a journalist. I'm not a developer in any kind of role, or I wasn't until 2021, when I said, let's pick one of the programs that are out there and let's try to make a game. And yeah, I'm happy that it's finished now, but I'm also really proud of how it's going to be in the end.
So you said you're an archaeologist, so it sounds like maybe you've always kind of been a bit of a history buff then and interested in historical accuracies.
Definitely, definitely. I think, you know, history and storytelling, these are like the things that have always guided my life, where it went, or after finishing to study archaeology, which was my childhood dream. You know, a lot of people don't believe that. But I heard about Indiana Jones like years after I knew I wanted to become an archaeologist. Um, so after I studied archaeology, I was like, how can you combine these words? How can you touch people's everyday lives with this? And so I went into filmmaking. I worked for documentaries, for history documentaries, and now I work as a journalist. For me, this is all about, you know, you take the facts, But in order to make the facts more palatable, I guess, or more teachable, you have to create stories. So yeah, stories and history, these are the two main things. So Casebook 1899 definitely is a product of that.
What has changed the most about Casebook 1899 from beginning of development until now? You are free to start drawing now. All right, your time is up. I'm wondering if I know that the colors in this application can be a little bit wonky. So I'm wondering if the red eyes is intentional or accidental. Um, I'm kind of thinking maybe it has something to do with who the antagonist of the game is. Maybe. Let's take a look at the actual response here. The main villain and his motives. Look at me. Did you have an expectation going into the development of this that changed as you were developing, or were things kind of fuzzy to begin with and then started to solidify as you created the project?
I think the first, but then things changed a lot. What I heard from testers, they played through the game maybe 75%, three quarters more or less, and then they started to see the theme about it. And in the end, some of them actually got quite emotional because they didn't expect this theme from a detective story. There's also some heartstrings being pulled.
That's great. I think we all want games to make us feel something, make us feel emotions. That's a big reason for it. What is your favorite gameplay feature in Casebook 1899?
Easy to answer, easy to draw.
You can start drawing now.
I don't even need the full minute.
Perfect. That is, I would say that's the casebook itself. Let's take a look at this. The notebook, yep.
Yeah,
So
that's
is it the act of like combining your clues to get new ideas or to come to conclusions that's your favorite part of it?
yeah. I think it's the whole thing. Also the thing that, like, some other games call this the mind palace thing,
Yeah.
where you then have to connect these things. And the way it works in the game is you always connect two clues in the notebook that you collected either by looking at things or reading things or talking to people. And then when you connect two things, you have to decide how did this unfold? Like who's the culprit, whose motive is valid. And this is also where the game like goes away from facts and more goes towards a gut feeling, which I think is every good detective has like a gut feeling and like things he can't really put into words or describe. You can find arguments for and against everything in the game, and really it's not written down anywhere in the notebook. It's what's written in between the lines. It's like you have to pay attention and you have to trust your feeling, I guess.
I definitely think that a lot of people will be satisfied with that mechanic too, because then it makes the player feel more like they are actively doing something themselves. They are, right? Rather than just having stuff spoon fed to them. Have you played the Frogwares Sherlock Holmes games before? Was that partially an inspiration for this mechanic?
I think it was an inspiration as much as a warning. I don't get me wrong. I love the Frogwares games. They have fantastic writing, stellar voice acting, the period detail. It's just the atmosphere. It's great. In the end, it becomes just a lot of mindless clicking two things together and see if it works. And will the thing turn green? And oh yeah, that's a possible solution, and that's not. For me, it always ends in trial and error. And that's the hardest thing to do if you do a gameplay mechanic like that. I mean, in detective games, famously, that's the biggest question. And a lot of people have tried a lot of different answers. How do you make the player communicate with the game that he has got the right idea? Because it's in the head, but how can the game check that? And it's really bad if it happens in the head and stays in the head, because then the game can't check it and can't progress. And so there's different answers to this. There's the golden idol answer where you have to choose the right word, or the casebook 1899 answer, or the Frogwares Sherlock Holmes answer with connecting two facts together. It's always a risky thing. I'm very aware of that you can brute force these things. You can absolutely do that. I think what I didn't like in the Frogwares games, it's always more than one viable solution, and they both become correct if you choose them. That is different in Casebook. There's a correct answer. There's always this moral choice, and it's like I feel like that's very not Sherlock Holmes. I don't know. He didn't let so many people get away with it.
That's interesting. I actually kind of forgot about that. I remembered figuring out who did it, and you could accuse the wrong person, but I completely forgot about like, oh, are you going to actually turn them in? Or are you going to let them do whatever they want to do?
Yeah, I think you always have the option to let them run, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's tempting, but sometimes it's like, what? No. He's
Yeah.
the murderer. It's like, no, that's not excusable.
Are you hoping to capture more of a classic point and click audience or more of a newer audience with Casebook 1899? You can start drawing now.
Yeah, I think that's my answer.
Okay, perfect. You did it ahead of time again. Look at you. On a trackpad too. I'm impressed. Okay, I'm I'm thinking classic because of the white hair, which I'm taking as an older audience. But let's take a look. Going for the oldies, so classic adventure fans.
Before I started the Kickstarter campaign for the game, I made I thought about who's my target audience, and I said it's gonna be my age plus. It's gonna be the 40 somethings. Well, back then they were the 35 somethings. So yeah, it's the classic point and click crowd. But then I exhibited the game for the first time, and I actually, when I exhibited back then, I used like the complete first case in a much rougher state. But it was the first case as you have played it now. And it takes about like 40 to 60 minutes for most people to finish it. And that is, of course, far too long to have as a demo for an exhibition. And most people like played 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then went on, took a flyer. But there was like a group of maybe 4 girls. They were between 18 and 20. And you could hear them from everywhere in the room because they had so much fun with the game, with the demo. It was, for them, it was a social experience. And I was just standing back grinning all the time because that's exactly what I wanted. I think that's what I'm missing in modern gaming. For me, adventure games they're single player games, but it was social gaming. It was, the old style social gaming. I would usually sit with one or two friends and we would try to solve it together. And like when one guy was out of ideas, another one would chime in and say, oh, try this, try that. And for me, playing it solo was really, really hard because I'm actually not good at adventure games. Luckily, people tell me I'm good at making them. But when it was the weekend and I was stuck, I would have to wait until Monday until I could go back to school and ask a friend who had already solved the game. And so seeing that this happened with my game in front of me, that was like the biggest thing that could happen, really. I think moon logic and pixel hunting, these are the two main killers of fun in the adventure game. And I'm trying to avoid that. I'm very actively, I said, I have a very limited inventory. You never have more than 4 items at a time because I don't like these games where I pick up hundreds of things and you have to connect them with each other and then with the world. And it always ends up you try everything with everything. And for me, it's more about the dialogue-based puzzles, and yeah, and also the pixel hunting. I think it's quite clear, but you can always have like the little snoop animations to see all items. It does get difficult in the end. 90% will not finish the game, so I thought, okay, I can be hardcore in the end because only the hardcore people will play it to the end.
What advice would you give to other solo developers? You can start drawing now. Okay, that's definitely a bug. I guess you'd be a spider technically with the 4 legs on the side, but
Probably. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm thinking it's probably identifying bugs, hence the magnifying glass over it. Maybe playtesting is the importance of playtesting. Maybe that would be my guess. Let's see how close we are. Don't overscope. Okay, that makes. I'm sitting here thinking about like technical things, but I guess that's probably not as big of an issue now that I think about it in point and click games as it would be in like an open world games because there's less room for bugs. Maybe I don't actually know. I don't develop games.
No, it's still it's very good advice because in adventure games, I mean, you don't have little bugs, you know, your character
Mm,
doesn't go off screen usually,
mm,
or something doesn't become an ugly big blob, or you couldn't look inside people's heads. That doesn't usually happen in adventure games, but you can still have a ton of bugs. These are just like strings of logic. And if you have a bug anywhere, especially with saving and loading save games, you can have really weird bugs that are immediately game breaking.
mm,
So actually having it tested rigorously is very important, because if you have a bug in your in your game, it's not just an ugly texture or something, you know, something you can look over it. No, it's I would say 50% of the time gonna break your game. Like progress ending, you have to reload something, or even worse. So yeah, I had a lot of bug reports that were like, I'm stuck now because that guy said that, but I didn't write it in my notebook, and now he's not saying it again anymore.
so
So good advice that you interpreted from my little street of ants with too many legs. I don't know how many. I think they have six, right? Yeah,
yes,
I
yeah,
think I
yeah,
think ants should have six legs.
yeah.
So it's a street of spiders. Well, no, it's the one advice any game dev gives any other game dev, and of course I didn't listen to it. That's why I'm doing this for 5 years now. This project is far too big. Like, if you want to make a point and click adventure game, be smart about it, make something small, play to your strengths. Like, as you can see, I'm not an artist, and that is also part of the reason why I chose the look of the game. My character sprites, they are like maybe 100 pixels high, and so I hand animate anything. So if I have a special animation for them, it's a very manageable number of pixels I have to animate. That is really a reason why I chose this art style. I'm not a great artist. I can't really draw. I do everything pixel by pixel, and any other project I would not have finished it.
How would you say people can identify overscoping? Obviously, having an open world MMORPG is overscoping, but you mentioned that even with this project, that is, a point and click detective game, that it's taken a good chunk of time. And I've heard similar things from other developers of point and click games, actually, that they'll take like 6, 7, 8 years sometimes to make something that doesn't seem like it would take a ton of time. So, how could somebody that is like getting into that identify that they even are overscoping?
If you're in my situation and you work for 5 years on a game, you're overscoped. But that's the problem. You know it afterwards, and that's why people tell you to look out for that before you start. You have no reference point. You know, I looked at the progress I made with the demo for the Kickstarter. I looked at how much free time do I think I have to put into the game, and all my numbers were completely off. Everything takes much longer. So my advice is make a game that you are sure you can do in 1 or 2 months, and then it will take you a year. No idea is too small, really. I have another game developer who's a friend, and he is like he's coming from another point. I'm always coming from story. He's coming from gameplay, and he starts like with really really limited gameplay ideas. Like he's it's one thing, and he also needs 3 years to finish his games. It's just the way it is. They're like minimalist games, you could say, but they're great. So I don't think if your game is boring, then it's never a problem of scope. Like more content wouldn't make it not boring, then it's a problem of your gameplay loop is not the right thing. So go back to work on that. The other advice is, oh, actually, I have two more.
Okay.
One is do something you love. Like I'm creating the game I always wanted to play. That definitely helps. There will be these times when you don't want to go on. You're encountering a bug you don't know how to solve, or sometimes you don't know how to write something. There's always moments when you will be stuck. So passion will get you over that. If you like what you're doing, if you like the thing you're doing, it helps you to keep doing it. That's why I will probably never make a shooter game. I just don't like them. And another thing that really helps is have a Kickstarter campaign. It's true that I'm really thankful to the 490 Kickstarter supporters, because not only, I think the money is like a side product. I mean, the money helped, yeah, sure. The money paid for a lot of the assets in the game, like the voice acting. But the really important thing is I now know every night when I'm not working on the game, I know 490 people are believing in me, even if I'm not believing in myself right now. And that really helps. I mean, it's a two-edged sword, of course. I also know that 490 people are waiting for a product. They've been really, really patient, and they've been lovely, but I want to make them happy. I mean, they have given me their money, they believed me, and honestly, without them, I think I might have abandoned the project at some point because it's just too big. So yeah, Kickstarter supporters, curse and absolutely the best thing ever.
You mentioned that you have a friend that focuses much more on gameplay mechanics rather than story. Do you think that for developers that are creating something story driven, that it is easier to overscope? Maybe because you like really want to flesh out the story, or for it to be as engaging as like a book or a movie would be, it takes a lot more because it's a video game and people may not be conscious of that.
Yeah, you run the risk of overscoping, but then you might want to look at a different genre. I mean, if you're really story heavy, just pick your genre well. Maybe it's not even point and click, because point and click it's like half about the puzzles and half about the story, or for some people even more about puzzles. I've another developer. He is not reading any dialogue. He's just skipping all dialogue, just wants the puzzles. And there's tons of players like that as well. So if you want to do something more like a book, then write an interactive novel maybe. You can use Twine for that. It's great to just start, just do it, and then maybe see where it leads you.
This is our last question. What do you wish more people knew about your game? And you can start drawing now. that says release. I think the top part says like chapter 4. Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell you that we our time is up anyway, so you can go ahead and wrap that up.
Okay.
I'm thinking that it's that the game is coming out in 2025. Let's take a look. It exists and comes out this year. Do you have a release date that you're just not ready to share yet, or are you leaving things a little bit flexible just to wrap things up finally?
No. I'm now working with a PR company who helped me prepare the release, and we have put something in the calendar for later this year. So that is fixed. Very nervously looking at other release announcements, like, oh, hopefully not in that week. And yeah, that is a fixed date actually. And I could put numbers in there, but I'm actually not allowed. They would be angry. They have all, they have plans how to announce that, and so I can't do that. But
I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. I'm excited to see the release date announcement.
Thank you for giving me the chance to talk about it and make these terrible drawings.
They're great.
The game is in pixel art. It looks much better than that.
I honestly feel like they're very impressive for being done with a trackpad. I don't think I could do as well as you did. You can support Gregor and Homo Naren Studio by wishlisting Casebook 1899 on Steam, or by following him on Blue Sky and Twitter. Don't forget to give us a follow here as well for more indie game interviews and goofy drawings in the future. My posting might be a little bit sparse because I work full-time and I'm also in school full-time, but you won't want to miss the interviews when they do come out. Until then, keep it colorful.